Greetings, fellow humans. You know me as Iceman Caesar, and this is what's up in the world today. Going to be talking about one of my favorite shows on TV, The Walking Dead, then talking about the spin-off of that, a show that's trying to get into the conversation of my favorite shows, Fear the Walking Dead. Fear just got started on Sunday with the fourth season, I think. It was a really good start. Tonight's going to be the second episode, but I'll talk about Fear at the end, the second half of it, because also last Sunday was the finale of The Walking Dead, I think season 8. So that we saw the season finale, and that was a pretty intense finale. A lot happened, so I'm going to talk about that. I'll talk about that first, and then we'll get into what happened on Fear. But so I just want to say, obviously, there's going to be spoilers. There might be some colorful language, considering I'm pretty passionate about both of these shows. So maybe some more colorful language than used to. So this one might not be safe for work if anybody watches at work or anything, but. So this one, but I'm just not going to worry about spoilers or anything. I'm just going to talk about the things that I know and things that have happened on the show. So just want to throw that out there before I get into it. And so if you're not caught up or anything, or you don't like speculation, I mean I don't know what's coming, but I haven't read the comics, but I do know kind of bits and pieces about certain storylines that have been ahead in the comics. So I might speculate a little bit on that. So if any of that is not in your alley, definitely don't watch this one. So just wanted to establish that before I get into actually talking about everything. So talking about The Walking Dead first, the season finale was a pretty good one. Looks like we finally saw the end of the Savior storyline, which to me, I'm glad that it's kind of finished and that we're going to be moving on to something else because for me, I'm never a fan of the bad guys. I never want to see, the bad guys dominating the good guys always. I mean, it's part of the story. You obviously have to build up your villains. They have to get some wins, win some battles. But, at the same time, I just always like to watch the journey of the good guys, rising up and taking them down. And, it seems too often on this show they're trying to, make the good guys not so good. So it's... it seemed like there was a lot of that in this Savior storyline, so I'm kind of glad it's over. But I really, I thought there was a lot of potential in it. It did give us some great moments. We got, lots of action out of the battles between these two. A lot of, great dialogue from Negan, and it's, it probably could have been, certain things could have been done better. Certain decisions maybe should or shouldn't have been made. But from what they gave us, it was a really entertaining few seasons, and they had a really big impact on the story. So it's it was a good storyline, but I'm definitely happy to see that it's kind of finished, that we're going to move on towards something else. It's just I'm really just tired of seeing the good guys start to act shitty, and just start to, especially Rick. I don't understand why they are this certain showrunners or certain writers or whoever are absolutely obsessed with taking Rick down. Just making, I don't get it. This to me, looking at this story, getting into The Walking Dead and going, that Rick we really need to write this to take him down. I couldn't imagine, getting into this story and motivating yourself to think of ideas to try and ruin Rick's character, or to turn him to almost try to turn him into a bad guy. There's so much potential for this universe they've created in in The Walking Dead. In this Walking Dead universe, there's so much potential for story and things they could do, and just there's so much. So the fact that they focus on destroying Rick's character and his the moral ground that he stood on from when we were introduced to him, it's not something that I'm interested, definitely. Obviously somebody on the show is really interested in seeing Rick taken down, and it's just, the guy loses every single fight. He was a cop. He doesn't win a fight. There's nobody. Even these red shirt saviors he was struggling with, and they were getting the better of him. Negan has his hand almost blown off, and he's kicking Rick's ass. Obviously Rick got the better of him in the end, but it's just I don't know what problem someone has with Rick, but it's just, I'm hoping that with this Savior storyline finished, that with everything Rick has gone through, and the changes in character we've seen, and you know, like the impact that Carl's death has had on him. Hopefully, you know, like I don't know, like toughens up, I guess, and you know, like isn't taken advantage of by all these villains that come up. Obviously, we're coming up on it. We're gonna have another villain, you know, in the show. It's just, you know, I really want to see Rick, you know, as more of a threat to, I guess, more of a threat. I mean, you know, the main good guy can't always be beating everybody up and always dominating everything. I get that, but it's just, you know, too many. Like, I mean, honestly, Rick got his ass kicked by the governor. The governor should not. That's just that's going into another topic, but I'm just really tired of seeing the, you know, the good guys, you know, try to be taken down a peg or to change their character to something that's more towards a villain. And you know, it seemed like there was a lot of that in the Saviors. So, you know, as good as it was, as you know, as it did bring us some, you know, really great characters, but at the same time, I'm glad we're moving on to something else. And you know, I'm really just, but the thing about the Saviors and Negan and everything, I'm really disappointed that we did not get to see Lucille used more. I mean, I don't mean like actually see him, you know, like beating people with a bat, with a barbed wire bat. I just mean like, you know, having more characters succumb to Lucille, and you know, maybe not as, I'm not saying like lots of main characters have to go, but just characters like anybody. You know, from what I understood in the comics, and from what I understood, you know, how they built Negan up with that Savior having all that weird shrine to everybody Negan's bashed in. It just seemed like it happened a lot more often than what we saw after. And I mean, seeing Abraham and then Glenn, you know, seeing those two lose. I mean, that was brutal moments and you know, just really really tough to see. So it's not like I want to see more of that, but I just mean like the Lucille thing and the bat really, I think, was the thing. It was that kind of characteristic and thing that put Negan over the top as a villain. You know, it kind of put him into to almost that supervillain status. You know, and it's just, I just really, I was looking to see that used more, and you know, coming up to the end finale here, I was sure that either Simon or Dwight was going to meet Lucille. Like, absolutely, positively sure that one of those two was taken in. I kind of thought that it might be Simon, but, you know, I was with, you know, Dwight hadn't been found out yet, but I knew that Savior, sorry, I forget her name, but I knew the Savior that saw that Dwight had turned on them and got away into the woods. I knew she was still out there, so I knew Dwight's cover was going to be blown at some point, so I kind of figured he might be getting the bat. I just figured one of those two. I mean, so I was kind of disappointed that, you know, Lucille did not end up having a meeting with either of those two. You know, not that I wanted to see both. I mean, both of those actors did a fantastic job bringing those characters to life on screen. But you know, to me, like, there should have been more use of Lucille, because that was the thing that pushed Negan over the top. And I mean, I guess they were, with the way that they were, you know, making Rick and them act and making Negan act, they're almost trying to, you know, try and do the old, you know, Bret Hart, Steve Austin double turn Rick into a villain and Negan into a baby face. So obviously they can't have him using Lucille to try and make that. But to me, Negan, you could keep him, or you could find ways to keep him around and still have him be that, you know, like that super villain type of character up until a certain point. But you know, to me, like, the Lucille thing was, I think, I wanted that to be more prominent in his character, especially with how he's introduced. I mean, right off the bat, two of our loved main characters, part of the main group, you know, bashed in. Like, that was a very, very strong start. And you know, I think, you know, given some time in between that and the next time you saw Lucille used would be definitely a good call. But I think, you know, that should have dropped that in there, you know, every chunk of episodes to establish Negan as, you know, not somebody to be messed with. And every time Lucille comes out, you know, you just get that, you sit up straighter in your chair or on your couch, or you just pay more attention because you've seen it used, and you know that if they're bringing Lucille out, it's probably not just for show. So that was one of the things I was a little disappointed on, with the the Savior storyline. We did definitely get a really good battle fight at the end between Simon and Negan, and it's I wanted one of Simon or Dwight to get Lucille, but with how they had just a really good brawl, and then Negan just choked Simon out with his bare hands. I thought it was a great way to end Simon's character, and it's we learned we started to learn a little bit more about Simon as we said got ready to say goodbye to him. I guess they revealed that it was Simon's call, and Simon was the one that killed all the men and boys from the Oceanside group, with that where Aaron is with all the women, and so I guess taking that off of Negan's plate. So obviously trying to make him a babyface, and excuse me. It looks like that's where we're going. We're going. Negan's going to be staying on the show, and we're going to be probably moving him into a role as a good guy, which I'm okay with, because Jeffrey Dean Morgan has done a phenomenal job, bringing Negan to the screen. To me, I guess I really thought this more at first. I'm not saying his performances fell off. I just think that they haven't written, with not putting more uses of Lucille in there. I think that it fell off a little bit from my comparison. But I really thought that early on, watching Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan was almost like watching Heath Ledger as the Joker. To me, it was that kind of, he had that type of a character. It was just like every time he was on the screen, you were absolutely glued to what he was saying and doing. When the episodes are on, you were waiting for his scene to come up, and to see what he was going to do, who he was going to interact with. So I'm definitely not upset at all about him staying around, and I'm 100% on board with trying to find ways to keep the character around, because it's such, when you have a great actor like that can bring a character to life like JDM can for Negan, you have to you really have to make sure the storyline is dictating that you're exiting that character out of the show, because if it's not, you have to find ways to keep him in, because those type of characters and actors, that energy drives shows forward. It really helps storylines connect. It just helps moments mean more. So I'm very happy that he's sticking around on the show. I think they could have written that a little bit better as to how he does it, how everything's coming together on that. But it's I'm definitely happy that he's gonna be sticking around. It's just Negan was kind of a interesting character coming into it, because I was, if you weren't trying to avoid comic spoilers, you definitely knew that a character named Negan was coming, and that just everyone seems so in love with him. And one of the frustrating things about this show is that it seems a lot of the fan base are just absolutely in love with the villains, like the Governor. I could not stand the Governor. He did his great job being the villain. I thought he was honestly, I thought he was him, and as a character, just the fact that he had control over people and thought he was better just drove me insane. And I could not stand. I couldn't wait until he was, finally got what was coming to him. But just everyone seemed to have such a love affair with him, and just thought he was so awesome. But same thing with Negan. Everyone just was pumping his tires, and it seemed like we were just gonna get into a never-ending story of Negan standing over our good guys on their knees begging for their life, just being humiliated. So. And it seemed like everyone would be cheering for that. So I was not looking forward to Negan coming into the show and having to deal with another supervillain that everyone loves so much we might not ever be able to get rid of. But it's he was like once I saw Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan, I was 100% on board. I was ready to watch this storyline play out, and it's easy to sit back and criticize people while they're in the heat of the moment and they're in the pressure of having to make a decision. And you have 1,000 different ways you could take the show, but you have to pick one, and once you pick it, you have to really put your 100% into it. You can't be wishy-washy and waver. You have to give 100% your time, effort, and energy into making that whatever direction you go in the best as possible. And once you choose that direction, you're not always able to just switch it up, or just it's easy to criticize some of the decisions they made, but for the most part, I think it was it was enjoyable to watch Negan as a character. There were a lot of times where he was, in the dominant position, humiliating our heroes, and I don't really think that, he got the comeuppance he deserves for that. But at the same time, I'm fine with I'm fine with how the storyline played out and how it came to a conclusion. Really, it's created some interesting scenarios moving forward. So it's overall, I think some fans might have been disappointed a little bit with how the Negan character played out and the Saviors and everything. But for me, I thought it was a win. It was a hit. And while it could have been done better, it's easy to criticize. And I did enjoy the story that they gave us for Negan and the Saviors. And so that kind of brings the end of that storyline and how it's moving forward. Kind of really ties into Coral. Oh man, I honestly cannot believe that they killed off Coral. Like, I just can't believe it. It ruins so much story that I just can't believe that they did it. To me, I knew that a big main character's death was coming again. After Glenn, I just want to say one thing about Glenn's death. I really think they mishandled that whole Glenn's death, especially. I mean, that whole initial scene of Negan and was definitely a home run, but I really thought they dropped the ball, and I think they damaged part of their hardcore fan base and how they did Glenn's death with how they once Negan hit him with the bat. I think he hit him. I don't know if he hit him once or a few times, but he stopped, and then Glenn. They showed Glenn like his deformed face from the bat, and struggling to speak, and to me that was just a huge mistake, because nobody needs to see that. You don't need to put that on screen. Like, I don't know if they understand how connected to this show people are. The way this show is, and now it's apocalyptic setting, and it's you're fighting for survival, and with how great the show is, how great the actors are, the writing, the sets, the crews, and bringing everything, the cinematography, just everything that comes together to bring this show. It's so everything that comes together, everything that comes together to make this show what it is just sorry, running off track here. But oh yeah, so sorry. Everything that everything that makes this show what it is, it just connects people to it so strongly that it's almost like your family. It does. I mean, it sounds strange to say that actors in a TV show become like a family, and but you're connecting your energy to them every week with so many other people, and they're doing such a good job that those connections are just strong. So it's like, it's almost like it was almost like you were seeing one of your family members, like in a absolutely just very violent, awful end to their life. And I mean, obviously it's a fictional character, but it's like when you buy into a show like that and you connect like you do, it's real. It's more, you have real, you feel real emotions, and I just really think that that moment was too real. Seeing it would have been bad enough to hear it, to hear it happening, not on camera, and just to see the reactions of our group, but to see Glenn like that, I just think it made it too real. It took people out of the show, and you're not enjoying it like that. You're not enjoying it's almost not a TV show anymore. Like, you're not getting that enjoyment energy. You're getting almost like it's a very sad, like almost a traumatic energy. So it's, I really think they mishandled how Glenn's death. They should not have showed that. And I just wanted to say that. And but after that, it was good that they gave us a good break between main character and losing another main character. But I knew another one was going to be coming. But for me, with the way they've been writing Daryl's character the last few seasons, I was sure that it was going to be Daryl. I mean, he has had some absolutely awful writing given to him, especially in this Savior storyline. I mean, him and Tara ruined Rick's great plan, which was working, just because they were too stupid and impatient to just wait it out and let it work. And nobody's calling him out for it, and he's still like sticking his big mouth out there and telling people what they should and shouldn't do, and now he's part of the little conspiracy. It's like, man, they are making Daryl, like, with how they're writing him, I thought they were setting it up to turn people off him a little bit, so he was going to be a big shocking death. Like, I thought for sure that we were going to be losing Daryl with how they're writing him, but but no, it was Carl, and I just think that's it was just so stupid. Like, it ruins so much storyline, and it it's for a main character to go. Carl is, I mean, people have fun giving Carl a hard time, especially earlier on. But, like, I mean, it's almost like you're just your little brother, you're giving him a hard time. Like, for them to get rid of Carl as a character, I don't think the storyline at all dictated that Carl should have exited from the show. I mean, really, the only good thing that you can pull out of Carl's death and the way they did it is, it really does hammer home the point that anybody can die at any time doing anything. It's not always going to be heroic or some big moment. Like, this is the zombie apocalypse, and you can literally be going out for firewood, and a few zombies get they surprise you, and you trip on a stump, or you drop your knife, or just anything could happen. I mean, literally, you're in a situation where you have no room for error. If you screw up or you make a mistake, that zombie is just gonna, he's gonna bite you. So it's like, you have no room for error, and that, like, the only good thing that Carl's death establishes is that environment. Anything can happen at any time. It's not always going to be heroic and meaningful. So, but I just don't think it's worth losing a character like Carl to establish that. There's lots of ways that you can hammer that home again. On the show, and it's just you're just not getting enough from the death of Carl to justify killing him in this way, I think. And it's just, like I say, really the only good thing you can pull out of it is that it establishes that anything can happen at any time, and that it's not always going to be heroic. So, I guess you can look at it and pull, and there is some positives out of it, but to me, it's just a big mistake. And with the environment of the show, and how ratings have dipped a little bit, fans are getting a little bit more vocally, voicing their displeasure a little bit more. I was just surprised that they would kill a character like Carl in that way, and it changes so many things. To me, it's like, I mean, Carl was Rick's motivation. I mean, he has Judith, but that's the big question is in his mind of, is Judith not his? And I think that he's even accepted that it's not, that Judith isn't his. So it's and Rick, a lot of who Rick was keeping Carl alive and making sure that Carl had a world to have a future in, and excuse me, like that, Carl was keeping, Rick was wanting to set an example for Carl, and it was just a lot of, to me it's just, there's just not enough payoff or good things that come out of it, and I think it just makes it a lot harder to justify certain characters doing certain things, and it makes it harder to write stories for certain characters going forward. It's just the letters were they were really, man, they definitely tugged on the heartstrings, and they were it's, for what they did, for that decision, they did a good job, but it's not something I ever would have done. I don't think it's a decision they should have made, but for doing that, they did a good job with presenting it to us. Like, it was, I mean, we got the last speeches from Carl, and people got to say goodbye. It was kind of everything you'd want from saying goodbye to a character on a show. It's just, I don't think it was the storyline dictated, and I don't think it was the right call at this time. And it sucks too. Chandler was a really good actor, and he seemed to be, obviously with the character he played, was really, really into the family, and just really connected with the whole group. And it's just, it's just sad to kind of know that he's kind of obviously he'll always be a part of it and always connected in a big way. But sad, that he's disconnected, and kind of that, just that immediate way. And it's, it won't be on no more stories for Carl or on the show or anymore. And it was, maybe cliche, maybe a little predictable, but I was looking forward to seeing Carl be kind of become the Rick, and look towards Caitlin as his or no, that's a real name on the show. But look, now that obviously now I'm on the spot, I can't think of her name. Okay, but Carl's girl, like I was looking forward to them, to seeing them kind of form an adult type relationship, and see them kind of take over leadership of the Apocalypse. So there was just so much story for Carl and everybody else, all the other characters, and it sucks. It really sucks. And I'm not for how they presented it was that they did a good job, but it's just it sucks. It sucks to lose Carl. And now moving forward, it's world without Carl. Rick is definitely changed. I hate that I'm gonna forget that I'm just gonna pretend that the scene where Rick kills that savior in cold blood, that just saved his life. Like, I mean, I get that him and Morgan were like, okay, that's it, we're on Terminator mode, we're not taking any prisoners no matter what anyone says. But it's just like, that's not who Rick was. Even if Carl died, I mean, like, if Rick like lost his mind and went on some bloodlust rampage, that I could have seen coming off of the death of Carl. But that's not what he did. He was he was calm and collected and knew exactly what he was doing in this. And I'm just gonna forget this scene even happened, because it was total bullshit to me. And Rick would not have done that. It changes how Rick you see Rick. You can't really look at Rick the same. So to me as a fan, I have to pretend it didn't exist. And I will have a steaming argument with anybody that wants to defend that scene. And that is just total and complete bullshit to me. And Morgan, what they do to Morgan's character is a whole video on its own. But just for Rick to have done that to the guy, just killing him from behind, to the guy that just saved his life, and kind of I'm just gonna pretend that scene didn't exist. But moving forward, Rick is definitely gonna be a changed man. It seems like he thought that he went too far, and Carl's letter pulled him back. Like, that is just lazy garbage to try and show Rick being a scumbag. It's like, oh yeah, now Rick knows he can. We've already seen Rick go too far and be pulled back by Carl. So it's like, we really needed to see something like that again, to that extreme, with Rick doing that, something that really damages his character like that. No, but it's Rick is definitely going to be changed, and it's, things are going to be... Gee, didn't even notice that coming back. Things are a little, going to be different. Rick is going to be a little bit of, it's going to be interesting to see how they write Rick as a character going forward. And, he's going to have immediate problems with this little, behind the scenes meeting that Maggie had with Jay and Daryl. I'm not referring to that character as the name they gave him. I can't even, I'm not even going to go into how much it pisses me off that they named a character that. I know exactly what they're doing, why they're doing it, and it just makes me too mad. I'm not talking about it. I'm going to refer to that character as Jay. We all know who I'm talking about. Maybe it's petty on my part, but I don't care. It pisses me off too much. I'm just not even going there. But that little meeting, it's like, I love, Daryl's one of my favorite characters on the show. I love him when they're writing him properly. But when they're writing him like this, I cannot stand him. Like, shut your mouth. Like, Rick is your buddy. You ruined his plan. I don't care if you think you didn't. You ruined his plan. Rick is brought... I mean, you guys need to be, like, working in the dark against Rick is just complete, it's more bullshit. It's like they should be confronting Rick about this. It's like, why would they, when have they ever been like this backdoor stuff? Like, I mean, what a what a phenomenal job from Lauren Cohen, like as Maggie, when she like when Rick said save Negan, like, wow, amazing performance. That's exactly what you'd think. It was like you could feel her heart just like breaking once again. Like, you're not gonna save the guy that bashed Glenn's head in, and like, you know, like she's getting to watch him basically suffer and die, and Rick save him. Like, that was an amazing scene, probably maybe one of the best scenes they've ever written in the history of the show. Like, it was just incredible acting. Like, send that to the Emmys. Like, she deserves an Emmy for that. That was everything an acting scene should be. It built up the entire story of 1.5 seasons or 2 seasons from when we saw that happen to Glenn. Like, that was just absolutely incredible. And you know, you were just feeling for Maggie that entire, just the entire length of the scene, and you know, just, oh man, it was, and you didn't know which way. I mean, like, on one hand, you can kind of see where Rick's point of saving Negan, and you know, with being a fan of Jeffrey Dean Morgan, you have sort of those, you know, like almost like a Walt Heisenberg thing. You're almost rooting for the bad guy, like, to be good a little bit, you know, to come back around and be good. But at the same time, he did those awful things to someone we love, our brother Glenn. So you know, you want him to pay in that way. Like, no more Negan. Like, you deserve to go out like that. So it was such a roller coaster and pull of emotions that it was just one of the best scenes they've ever written, and one of the best scenes performed. Like Lauren deserves an Emmy. I mean, if you're gonna give awards for best acting performances in a TV drama, I don't know. I'd love to see what other scenes you're gonna say that are, you know, going to be better than that. I was in the same conversation, okay, but like better than that, no way. It was an incredible scene, and just another layer on top of that. You know, the end to Negan and the Saviors, I thought was just really, really well done. And I did not want to. One of the only things I want to see, like, less than, you know, the bad guys dominating the good guys, is the good guys fighting each other. It's like we finally get done with Negan and the Saviors, you know, dominating our good guys, humiliating them, making them just, you know, pathetic. It's finally get over that, and now they're gonna fight each other. Like, oh man, get over it already. Let the good guys be good guys. Like, this is just stupid. I mean, you can give them conflict sometimes, and you know, oh, you know, should I do this? Is it bad? And you know, you can have people waver and sometimes and try to bring them back, but it seems like every single good character is like, who do you root for? Who do you root for on this show, really? Like, every time you turn around, somebody's doing something, you know, scummy. So it's like, I really hope that this, you know, good guys fighting each other is resolved really quickly, and that, you know, their attention is, everybody is kind of comes together and focuses on another problem, whatever that may be. You know, there's definitely lots of upcoming stuff that's going to be interesting to deal with. You know, because coming up, somebody has a helicopter. You know, Jadis knows a little bit more about that than she's let on. But holy crap, you see a helicopter flying around the apocalypse and nobody's talking about it. This should be like the dominant part of everybody's conversation. Where's this helicopter? Who has it? Where's it coming from? It's just like everyone's like, oh hey, there's a helicopter, like it's like we do today. It's just like, what? This helicopter should be much more of a conversation. So I think that might be intentional, you know, by the writers trying to keep the helicopter out of your mind, and then, you know, in the upcoming seasons when we find out about it, it's like, bam, here it is. It'll be more of a surprise. But, you know, I want to learn more about that helicopter and see what exactly has been going on. And it's just, but I think it should be more of a conversation. I mean, Negan even saw it, and he didn't say one word about it to anyone. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the explanation is for that. We also have the Key to a Future group. That's going to be interesting to see if they're on the level, or if they have their own place, or if they're kind of, you know, roving around to try and see, you know, give people opportunities to set up communities and see who does it first, or because I'm sure this isn't the first group that has been approached and given these, you know, these Key to the Future or whatever. Excuse me. But it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that. And the walkers are always still a threat. And if I want to, I'm always looking forward to seeing the walkers be more of an impact, have more of a threat, and it seems like they're going to be moving towards that. Everybody was looking towards another horde, so it's it looks like the walkers are going to be more of a problem. And it's that's what it is. It's the show's The Walking Dead is trying to survive in the zombie apocalypse, and trying to deal with the problems that come from dealing with The Walking Dead. You have enough problems dealing with humans and the emotion, and the worst parts of the character that the apocalypse brings out. Not to mention all the dead that are trying to eat you. So it's it's that the walkers are still a threat. So no matter what other groups come up, what other villains, that the walkers are always still there. So looking forward to see what impact they have on the group going forward. And we're definitely going to be getting new bad guys, new villains. I don't want to throw too much stuff out there from the comics, but there seems to be a group of villains people are expecting and waiting for, and that seems like a pretty out there, pretty intense storyline. So it's going to be, if that's where they're moving to, it'll be pretty crazy to see how they're able to make that play out on TV. So I'm looking, I'm as critical as I can be of the show, and as when this show, like I said, I love the universe that The Walking Dead created, and I just think there's so much potential for stories in it. And for me as a creative mind, and when I watch things, and when I do things, I'm immediately thinking of how I could contribute, how I could either make it better or just help. And The Walking Dead just lights a fire under me creatively. It's just I really have to stop myself from focusing on ideas for in the Walking Dead universe and stuff, because I'm not at the point where I'm even close to putting those into making them into reality. So I have to focus on things that are more of a reality for me. And but it's just I get so excited about the prospects and the potential of things in the Walking Dead universe. I love the stories, and I just there's so much about it I love. And so as critical and as much shit as I can give the show sometimes, I do love it. I love watching it. I love it when it's at its best. It's one of the best shows on TV. It keeps you on the edge of your seat, and it's just it is an absolute brutal wait when you're waiting episode to episode, season to season. So I do criticize the show very strongly sometimes, but I love it. The actors are amazing. The crew is just incredible with the environment that they create on the screen, and this world they bring to life every week. And it's I just love the show. I want it to keep going as long as it's going to be good and keep bringing us these great stories, but I don't want it to just keep going and turning out the hamster wheel, and that seems to be sometimes where the show is in danger of getting to that hamster wheel and not utilizing the full potential of everything they've created. So I'm really excited about the future, and I'm looking forward to the next season. And I'm glad the Saviors, the storyline wrapped up. Negan's still around, so it'll be interesting to see how he's able to either integrate into the group, or if he comes to an end, how that happens. So lots of looking forward to and be excited about for The Walking Dead. It was a great finale, and can't wait till we get started again. So that brings me to the end of talking about The Walking Dead. Moving to Fear of the Walking Dead. Just 1 second as I grab a drink. Thank you very much. Okay, Fear the Walking Dead. So this is kind of what I mean about all the potential that the Walking Dead universe created. I mean, you could create a zombie show about every single city, every country, and every part of the world. Eventually you'd have problems of running into repetition of stories and stuff like that. But man, with all the creative minds out there that love zombie shows and love The Walking Dead and stuff, you just have so much potential to create these worlds, and to give us a story of the apocalypse from so many different perspectives. It's just, that's why I think everyone got so excited about Fear the Walking Dead because we get to go back to the beginning and see how things progress to where we are now in the zombie apocalypse and on the Walking Dead, and it's I was really excited about Fear being a show, but to me it's been such a huge roller coaster of a show. It's just I don't want to say I'm surprised it's still around, but it's like shows that roller coaster like this don't usually stick around with the kind of momentum Fear still has. So I'm glad it is, but man, has it been a roller coaster. I really got to say, truthfully, the first 1.5 seasons were just a huge drop of the ball. Like one of the things I was most excited about was seeing like the downfall of society, like from a different perspective. We woke up and with with The Walking Dead, we wake up with Rick and society's already fell for I don't know how, I think it was a few days or a few weeks, but society was already gone, and the apocalyptic society had already started to set up. So we didn't get to see the fallout from our society to the apocalyptic society. But this one we were supposed to get that chance, but I really feel they didn't. They just kind of just motored right past it. They didn't, and the stuff that they did show us, I did not like at all. Like I didn't like the military stuff. It's like, why does the military always have to be the biggest like asshole scumbags? It's like why can't they be good, welcoming, trying as best as possible to be as accommodating to everyone and to save as many people and and it's just I just didn't think that. I didn't really like how they played out the beginning of the show. I thought that, by the time you knew it, that we were into the apocalyptic society already, and we didn't really get to see a lot of the fallout from normal society to the apocalyptic. So, right there, I kind of was in a disappointed energy on the show, and then, just with the, stuff with the boat, I mean, Alicia's character made me want to just pull my hair out and just... It drove me nuts, like the way when she was, talking to people on the radio on the boat and telling them where they are. That's like I wanted to. I almost had to shut the show off. It was just, and it just seemed like there was just so many decisions like that happening over and over. The show drove me insane. And Chris as a character, he was tough to kind of root behind or get behind. So like those first 1.5 seasons to me were just. I honestly stopped watching the show. I don't usually, abandon shows. I'm not, I really have a tough time, like if I start reading a book, I gotta finish it. But, if I start watching a movie, I gotta finish it. TV show, same thing. Unless that content really just destroys my interest and then just shows me that it's not worth reading or watching anymore. And to me, that's what Fear did. It's just... I just like this show's not worth my time and energy anymore. Like I'm just sitting here getting frustrated and getting mad. Like there's nothing really I have to enjoy about it. So I stopped watching it. But I was from watching Better Call Saul. I was seeing previews and clips from the upcoming season, and I wasn't really worried about spoilers or anything because I wasn't planning on watching it. So I didn't fast forward. I didn't change the channel or anything, and so I was paying attention. But some of the things that I saw in those little clips and trailers, I was like, man, that's actually kind of intriguing. I wonder what they're doing with that. So because of those little previews, I kind of got the hooks into me again a little bit, and I was kind of figured, okay, I'm gonna track this down I'm gonna binge it all at once, so I don't have to wait and waste my time or anything, and we'll see how it is. And man, that's after the second half of season 2 and then the first half of season 3, I guess, just awesome. I thought they were great, completely different from the first 1.5 seasons. I was just, so many things they did got me excited about the universe and the characters and the story. And I was just, it just got me connected again. I was like, all right, I wanted so bad to be along for the ride, and I did not want to get off. And so to watch it and have to see exciting things and to see the story go in a place that I was going to enjoy was just, I was over the moon happy with it. And I was just really happy to be back along for the ride, and so I was, I thought that was awesome. But then I got to admit, the last half of season 2, I think the one that we're just coming out, the premiere for season 4 was last Sunday, so the half a season before that. I thought that kind of regressed a little bit. I thought it went back to some of the things that the show did in the first 1.5 seasons, and it's just I thought I'm gonna get into it in more detail, but I thought the last half of the season regressed, but then on Sunday I thought the pilot was awesome. I was totally hooked into it the whole time, and it got me really excited for tonight's episode, and then everything coming up, all the episodes coming up for this season. So I guess it's just been such a big roller coaster of a show, to be so disappointed that I was like, I got off. I was like, I'm done. And then to seeing enough to bring me back, and then really enjoying the ride, and then once again being a little bit disappointed, but not enough to get me off of the ride again. I'm definitely sticking with it for, I was ready to stick with it for this season. I wasn't not going to watch, and this season is off to a great start. So looking forward to it, and hopefully that the roller coaster can kind of coast on a high note here for a good few seasons, because it's a great cast. It's another great crew. So I really, and the writing teams are all, they're all good. I think they still need to find their momentum and their footing as far as where they're taking the show and the direction. But it's I just but yeah, I'm excited for this upcoming season. And you know what? One of the biggest things that's going to help the show coming into it is Morgan. He's going to be the first crossover character coming from The Walking Dead to Fear the Walking Dead, and trying to bring these universes together a little bit. And it's just, Morgan's one of my favorite characters. I was really waiting for him to come back on The Walking Dead, and when he finally did, it was just so happy. I've definitely been frustrated with how they've written his character. I've wanted him to be a certain way, and he's been acting a certain way that's been driving me nuts. So it's they've been it's been up and down with Morgan, but he's still one of my favorite characters, and Lenny James is an incredible actor, and it's going to be awesome to kind of get a little bit of the spotlight here on Fear the Walking Dead, and get more of a chance to be in more of a lead role, and be more of a lightning rod for the success or failure of the show. So while Walking Dead is definitely Rick's show, Michonne's show, and Maggie's show, and just everybody like that, it's this. Fear the Walking Dead is still kind of, there's Madison and Strand and Nick and Alicia and everyone, but, this show is still kind of, I don't know if you can really pin the show on one character, so I think I'm really excited to see Morgan get a chance to kind of shine in this role. And already, man, JD meeting up with Morgan, JD is an awesome character. I think I think most of the fan base are kind of in love with this character already, and actors doing a great job bringing him to life. It's these are the kind of characters I wanted to see in these shows. And it's just I'm just right from the very second we saw him and he started speaking, I was a fan of JD. So I'm hoping he's going to be a long-term character, because it's lots of potential with what you could do with him. And but I got a feeling that I believe the term is catfished, but I think that our boy JD got catfished by this Laura character, probably to either steal his supplies or steal food or steal guns, or or maybe to gain some kind of advantage that he had. But I'm thinking that Laura might not be exactly on the level, and she might end up being somebody that we know. Could be Alicia, Madison, or just could be somebody that we've already met. But I don't think that this story is exactly how JD's presenting it out there, and the fact that he didn't want to tell Al the end of the story kind of really makes me wonder about what's going on. So they really I love bringing up these question marks, and I'm really interested to seeing how how it plays out, and if we're going to be introduced to this Laura. And I know they're going to tell us a story. I'm really looking forward to see what what it all is. Another thing about JD is I'm almost thinking he might he's almost a little too naive for that point in the apocalypse. You know, getting the jump by all those guys, and he just I don't know. It's just I think he might be putting on a little bit of an act for people, maybe trying to gain information, maybe trying to not stick out, try to blend in. But I don't know. I think something I don't think is quite on the level with our friend JD. So, but I love that he's been introduced as a character, and I'm really looking forward to watching his story unfold. And holy shit, man, Maggie Grace as Althea Al. Wow. I had no idea, would never have guessed that was her until I watched The Talking Dead. Wow, what a transformation. It does not, I mean, once you know it's her, you can see it, but if you don't know it's her, I'd be surprised if anybody was able to catch that without knowing, because that was an unbelievable transformation, not in just her look, but even her acting. Like, she did a great job as Shannon on Lost. Shout out to Lost, one of the best shows ever, one of my favorite shows. She did a great job on that show. I'm not saying she was a bad actress, but wow, like she completely owned this character. She was Al. She was this, and at no point does it feel like you're watching an act and like somebody act. It looked like you're watching a real person, and it was just an amazing job done by her to bring this character to life. And I just, as a big fan of Lost, and all the actors and actresses from Lost, I'm really excited that Maggie Grace is on this show and that she's been given such an awesome character. I am really hoping she's a long-term character. Like, I'm all in with her. And she's kind of really vaulted up as one of my favorite characters. We've only seen one episode. I love how she's kind of a journalist and got this video camera trying to record everybody's stories. I really hope there's an Easter egg somewhere, along on the DVDs or just online or somewhere we can get just all these stories from her that she's collected from people, like not just from people we know, just all these random stories from people that she's stopped and talked to. Like, I think that's the kind of thing I love about these shows, and what gets me so excited. So I am just in love with this Althea character. I'm just so excited to see her, to find out what her story is, to learn her story, and then obviously they're now coming into contact with our main group. So I'm just so excited about this character and the story that's going to be coming with it. And I really, really hope that she's not like only around for half a season or a season or something. Like, I think she has lots of potential, and I'm really, really excited about this character. But and so now, like I say, it brings us they have kind of ran right head first into our main crew. Does not look like they're doing too good, but when we last saw our crew, they were pulling themselves out of the water. Nick was on the dam after having just blown it, and now I guess they've found themselves, got back together, but they're acting like scumbags, or they're so desperate that they're willing to steal from anyone. So it's they brought up a lot of questions with what they did in that last with the end of the premiere. So it's going to be interesting. Plus, there's a little bit of a time gap. Like, I'm not worried about them, being exact, like 100%, making an exact science of the timelines meeting up. I loved Robert Kirkman on the Talking Dead that was like, we're gonna vaguely address it and without ever actually nailing it down. I thought that was perfect. That falls in line with the "thank you for smoking" thing, where just one line of dialogue. Thank goodness we invented the blah 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 machine. It's like that. I just love how you can do things like that. And when you do them, they have to be right. But when they do them, it's great. And I don't think matching the timeline. I don't think making the timelines match, making that an exact science is something that this show needs. So, I mean, as long as they kind of loosely just put the timelines together, that's cool with me. But there's definitely a little bit of a gap between, what what happened on the dam and coming to this point, because now they're seeing Morgan, who is so there's definitely a lot of time passed between, Morgan now and where they were at the dam. So it'll be interesting to see what they went through. And it's just like I say, with a roller coaster of a show. With how I was disappointed with the last season coming into the premiere, but I'm super excited now about the characters they've introduced and the story that they've introduced going forward, and just figuring out what the heck is going on with everyone. So it's I hope, but I'm hoping that we don't have another savior storyline just this time on Fear. With our group is trying to find supplies to to give to some scumbag group, which, judging by the preview for this episode, I think, and maybe that might be the case. I don't know though. But I was really one of the things that disappointed me about the last half of the season, season 3, I think, was the Proctors. Like, oh man, I thought that was so stupid. It's I mean, we need villains and stuff. I just did not really like I didn't really like the Proctors stuff, but I guess kind of that's really more of a reality of the types of groups that would be rising up, and it's I guess they're doing their job as a villain. I really do not like them, but I think that with a little bit more focused, like, I don't want to say, I hate using the word better, but like with a little bit better writing, I think the Proctors could have potential and be a great villain. But just with the way that with what we saw in season 3, with how they're introduced in season 3, I really did not like, anything around them, and I was, really hoping that the explosion on the dam was kind of the end. So, but I'm really excited to see just why our group is in the situation they're in with, ambushing people on the road for supplies and stuff. So, really looking forward to seeing what the story is going to be. And so now I just want to kind of go back and talk about a little bit about some things in the past episodes. Like I wanted to write a blog at the time, but sometimes I just what I want to do and what I actually have time to do, or just they don't always match up. So I wanted to write a blog about this after I watched the. After I watched the seasons I got really excited about, but I never really found the time, and coming into this I thought it'd be a good chance to just address some of the things I wanted to talk about in the blog, in this video. So we'll talk about a few things in the past episodes. I want to talk about Chris and Travis. I know we haven't seen them in a few episodes, but I was absolutely blown away by the end to their story, more specifically Chris. Because, I mean, he was basically killed off screen. He's one of the main characters on the show, and then his death is like basically almost off screen and like in a memory of a stranger. It was I couldn't believe that Chris's death was not a whole episode, and I honestly couldn't even believe they killed him. Like one of the things I got excited about initially was when I started watching the show again was the fact that. I thought there was so much potential with Chris going off on his own with a group, and like without his dad, and I thought there was so much just story they could have written with they didn't have to make Chris a bad guy. He could have risen up and realized grown up real fast without his dad in another group, and like I just thought it could have been almost like an ace up their sleeve, like a Morgan. I just. With the way they wrote it, I kind of thought they were almost like writing him out of the show for a little bit. But I thought that would have been a great thing for the character, because you could have shown so much growth for that character, and at the same time would have just opened up so much story for the show, and it would allow a lot of growth in Travis, because in the apocalypse it's almost like that trying to protect your kids. I mean, it's like your kid has to. He has to find his footing and find the strength to walk on his own too, and sometimes you just have to let them go, or you're not. It's the apocalypse. You're not always going to be around to baby them, protect them. So I thought there was so much potential. So when they just killed him off screen, I was stunned, could not believe that. And as frustrated as I was with Chris, I mean, it was just the actor did a great job in playing that that snarky little teenager that knows everything and no one can tell him anything, and he's the biggest badass that knows how to he did a great job as that, and I was looking forward to seeing him move grow and move into more of a mature more of a good guy type character. But I couldn't believe the way his character's end went, and then Travis too. It was like Travis, I kind of knew that Travis was like when I started watching the show, I thought I picked him as one of the early shocking deaths to that the show was going to use because with The Walking Dead being all about kind of Rick's show, I really thought that Fear was going to kind of be Madison's show and that she was going to be the Rick, and they were going to establish like a female Rick, and then so you'd have that contrast. It wouldn't just be the same as The Walking Dead. There'd be definitely a big significant difference between the leaders of the groups and just the dynamic of the groups, how a man leads it and how a woman would lead it. So it's so that's kind of so I knew that people would be looking to Travis to be that type of Rick. So for me, I was expecting him to be one of the surprise characters that would be killed off, but definitely not that early and definitely not in that fashion. It's and I hated that they tied it back to a group of people that I really became a big fan of, and had really became found myself finding love for as a fan, but we'll come to that in a second. But I was just I really liked Travis as a character. I love the actor. I've seen him in lots of things. He's a great actor. He's been around for so many years in movies and TV and stuff. So I was excited to see him as a character on this show, and it sucks to see him go like that. But he did a great job while he was on the show, and I just wanted to talk about Chris and Travis because I was blown away by the end of their stories. And as a big fan of Travis, I know it would be super cliche and kind of cringy if all of a sudden he survived his injuries in that fall from the helicopter because I thought that I don't know if we kind of saw it, but they implied he had his intestines like coming out, and he fell from a helicopter, but he could have landed in some bushes or but I would give them that creative license to get Travis back. As a fan, I would be willing, as long as they give us reach as far as they can to give us that explanation. I would be willing to give him that creative license to see Travis back on the show. But just wanted to mention them talk about Travis and Chris. I thought they were great characters, and I was just blown away by how their ending came. And so then one of the things, like I guess basically the main thing that I really loved about the last half of season 2, first half of season 3, it was everything with the ranch. With Jeremiah and Troy and Dre and Jake, and I just loved how that storyline started to play out and everything they built up, and how these communities were kind of preparing for the end of the world, and so they were a little bit of a step ahead of everyone. They had things set up. They had a plan for long term. Excuse me. I just, that's one of the things we didn't really see in The Walking Dead, so I was really intrigued by it, seeing that in Fear, and I thought there was lots of potential in the characters they introduced. How Jeremiah was he seemed like this kind of good guy, but but at the same time he was a really bad dude, and he was a really racist guy. So it was it was interesting. It was an interesting dynamic with him, and then with Jake and Troy. Jake kind of being the leader and the good guy, and like the guy you want to root for, and even Troy, I found myself wanting to root for, and wanting to see him get himself right and become a good guy, and just become the best version of himself. But unfortunately, never really got there. But I thought that just created a big dynamic with Jake. Knowing what the worst version of his brother was, but trying to save him from it and trying to protect him and trying everything he could to push him on the path to be the best version of himself, and at the same time struggling with his own things that he was dealing with. And I just thought, I really thought all the actors did a great job with their characters, and I thought that I really was enjoying the storyline. And that's why, for me, I loved everything about it up until Jeremiah's death. And once Jeremiah died, I thought, everything about that, the storyline clearly went downhill, and I thought that's where the show regressed a little bit, because I was really, really hoping when they brought, Kelataka's tribe, and they brought the tribe and the ranch together. Man, I was just really hoping that we get to see, unity and everyone coming together, that it would work, and that it would, and then they'd come together as one group, and then turn their attention together to focus on another problem. But it was the same old thing, typical show, just typical stories like this. You bring the groups together, nobody's getting along, everyone's fighting, all all the superficial bullshit that doesn't mean anything is making people hate each other, and it's just and all that stuff leads to turmoil and conflict, and it leads to the downfall of the sanctuary, the ranch, and just the the good relations between everyone, and then a lot of the population. So that whole thing just really disappointed me. I was just hoping that it would be different than the typical thing we always see. It seems like in shows and movies, like people come together, nope, can't get along. I mean, I guess that's how it probably would go in real life, and maybe how it would go, but I don't know. Like we have things about like the Olympics where we put aside our differences and come together. We have things like when tragedies happen, we put aside our differences and come together. So I think that if something like the apocalypse happened, where the only way to survive is to put aside our differences and come together, I think that a majority of human beings would do that. But it's it's just I was hoping to see something, hoping to see more unity and something different on the show, but unfortunately that's what we saw, and just collapsed the show, collapsed that part of the show. I just think it was a big, huge waste. Like I thought tons of potential and tons of story that they could have just used to go through some of these seasons, but it's just I just think it was a huge waste. Not only for like the story, but I think for lots of the characters that they brought. And to me, it's brought down to just lazy writing, because it's just the lazy, easy way is to make everyone nobody can get along and everyone fights, and then scumbag Troy leads a herd, and it gets rid of the population, and it ruins the ranch, and the ranch is no longer there anymore, so everyone has to scatter, and it's just like that's just lazy. That is just lazy storyline telling to me. There's no imagination, no thought put into that at all. It's just like, I don't know. It's just if you don't have the funds to maintain a cast size like that, don't write storylines like the ranch. Then I don't know what to say. Like, to introduce stuff like that and to pull it away without reaching the potential is just it damages the show, and it hurt my interest. But it's at this point I don't want to give up on the show, and I didn't damage it to the point it did that the first 1.5 seasons did. But it's just I just think it just was such a waste, and it was just down to lazy writing. Because if you put some effort and some imagination into it, you could have come up with so many better ways to take the story than the direction that they did. And it was just the fall of the ranch was a waste. I thought the character of Jake, like him, what a waste of his character. The way he dies, and it's just I was expecting him to die. Like good guys like him. Like that's always the message. Oh, they never last. Good guys always die. But to me, I thought Jake just had a little bit more of an edge and a little bit more of a survival instinct, to where he'd be almost more like a Rick. He was kind of the character that reminded me the most of Rick, and I thought that I was hoping that he'd survive, whatever the climax of this storyline was going to be, and get through it. But unfortunately, he didn't, and it ended up being pretty much kind of a waste. So I was disappointed to see his character end like that. And Troy too, he never really, it seemed like he was moving towards being the best version of himself and maybe coming around, but it was, with him leading the herd there, it was just kind of unforgivable. And at that point, I was just kind of waiting to see his demise. I didn't really think they were going to move him to a point where he was going to become the best version of himself. So I was just kind of waiting to see his death. But I mean, with the way Madison just kind of offed him after he was, obviously making trouble for everyone, it was just almost like lazy, like, man, boop, bop him on the head, and that's it. It's like, I thought there was a lot more potential and a lot more of the story they could have told with him, but this is another thing that I thought another point where I thought the show regressed. And Ophelia, it's like, man, why shocking deaths are not always the way to bring viewers. Like, yeah, they work sometimes, but man, like her death, and I just to me it really I really kind of got a disappointed feeling when I saw her death, because then I knew that they were going to have conflict with Daniel's group, and that the integration wasn't going to go as smooth, and maybe that Daniel's group wasn't going to have control of the dam for long term. And I just, once I knew Ophelia was bit, I knew things were not going to move in the direction that I was kind of hoping they would. And she did a great job as a character. It was sucked to see her go, but it did give kind of a great scene for Daniel. I do not like Daniel as a character at all. I think he's a piece of trash, and the fact that he's his go-to. I think torture is like the worst thing in the world. I can't stand it. I wish I could wipe it off the face of the earth and the history of the world. But it's like, for this guy, it's always his go-to. He's just almost like, I just can't stand his character, man. The fact that he thinks he's such a badass for being this torturer, and I just can't. And to me, I just don't like him. But the scene where the moment that really made me feel for him. It made me realize that this guy's not this is a TV show, so it's like it's not really like I said in the earlier videos, it's like you're kind of playing God. Like God and the devil aren't necessarily in it influencing the characters the same way they influence us, but it's like like Daniel, he is not a piece of trash. No, he's not a scumbag. He's been influenced to be like that bad type of person, and to buy other outside forces and negative things. So it's like, but that moment where he realizes that Ophelia is bit and she's dead and she's gonna turn and he's gonna have to shoot her, and he's like, the line, just, what kind of cruelty is this? It's like, wow, man. It's like, for him to have the daughter that he was looking for him to have his only daughter, that everything he's done has been trying to protect her and save her and to keep her from death and violence and from the worst things of the world. Everything he's done is for her to be presented to him as and to him for finally to reach her as she dies and not get to interact with her as she's alive and have to be the one to put her down. And for him to feel like for every bad thing he's done, he's being punished, and that watching his daughter die in front of him and not getting to have his goodbyes and having to put her down himself is like his punishment. It was just when he said that line, it was just like, man, it changed the way I felt about Daniel, at least in that moment. And it's I still root for him. I'm still rooting for him to become the best version of himself, but it's just the way I'm sure me and Daniel are going to be butting heads as a character going forward. But that was another great moment I really thought stood out in the show, and it was just such a great moment of acting. And I don't know if it was enough of a, again, I'm not sure you have to have a certain amount of time in the episode to to win to get an Emmy nomination. But man, does Daniel deserve, the actor that plays Daniel deserve, sorry, I forgot, don't have the name written down, but does he deserve recognition for that? Because that moment, it's just culmination of story. You felt that in his voice, the way he delivered the line and the emotion, how he looked. It was just a great job and a great delivery by him. It just it changed the moment, but really it sucked to it's great to have that moment, but it sucked to lose Ophelia as a character, and as the actress, she did a great job. And man, one waste of a character that really got, I don't understand it, was Ephraim. They didn't even let him stay alive to see the dam get blown up and the water return to the people. What a great moment that was. I was gonna watch stick with the season, but one of the things that I was excited about through that last season last half of season 3 was getting to see Ephraim's reaction to the water being returned to the people, because I knew that the dam was going to get blown and that the water was going to be released and things like that. But they didn't even, it was just a random, pointless, meaningless death. He's standing in the shack and just gets lit up, nothing, no meaning, no nothing. I thought that was, man, I don't know that there's been much on this show that's pissed me off like that, but I really want to know who wrote that scene, and I want to have it out with them. I want to have a verbal altercation, but I want to have it out with them. I want to know why the hell you'd write that scene like that. Why? It's just it had an amazing scene's handed to you on a silver platter. when Ephraim got shot, I was hoping that he'd stay alive long enough to him dying as the waters returned to the people would have been such a great poetic moment. It would have been a beautiful moment for the show, and they just ruined it to do nothing. Things like that just drive me absolutely insane. I mean, I thought Ephraim was a great character, and I was really disappointed that not only did we not get to see that moment of him seeing the water return to the people, but that his character was just wasted in a death like that. It just to me, and that, just this show has to stop wasting characters and stories and moments. I mean, that's really the thing I can say coming out of talking about all the missed opportunities and the wasted opportunities with some of these characters. Like they have to think much harder and just take more effort and attention into making these decisions about where they're taking the story, and really looking at it and like thinking, do we have something here? Do we have something that we could maybe extend in longer or write more stories out of? Or is this character worth building up to a bigger moment, or is this character worth keeping around to create more story with? So they really got to focus on not wasting characters and stories, and trying to just trying to put I'm sure they're trying to put the best version of it on the screen, but they just have to put more attention into not wasting some of these characters and stories. But that brings me to last, but certainly not least, probably is my favorite character on the show, and that is Kalitaka Walker. He is my favorite character from the man. To me, and I loved his character. I love just everything about it. The backstory, how he interacts with people, and just I definitely butted heads with the character, but he's my favorite character. I think he has the most potential, and seeing him in the little preview clip is kind of one of the things that brought me back. Because one of the things I've actually always been intrigued me about the zombie apocalypse is how the native, indigenous, the native people would handle it. Because they are they are a lot more closely associated to living off the land and living more of a, I don't want to say more of the lifestyle that you'd have no choice but to live in an apocalyptic lifestyle, just relying totally on they're not as much on electricity and technology and stuff. So I think they would absolutely crush it, and it creates an interesting dynamic because there's this whole people stole their land, so it's the whole racism, white people, native people. But it's like I said in earlier videos, it's not a race thing. We're all human beings. It's all just everything underneath skin is all the same. The real enemy is Satan. He's influencing every human being to be evil and trying to create racism and stuff. So, but that's the thing. It's that's not exactly common knowledge. So there'd be the dynamic of there'd be a lot of white people that would need help from the native people, and it's okay, in this when we had society, native people were under the impression that white people across the board stole their land. So it's even though most white people had no say in it, wasn't on them at all. It's they're still they're gonna still have to be painted with that same brush, just like the things that the native people have had to deal with in the actual society, to where a lot of them get judged by the actions of a few, or certain stereotypes or certain things. So it's it would be such an interesting dynamic. It's with the native, you'd definitely have native people that would say, you're on your own, you stole our land, it didn't help us, you're done. And then you'd have the certain groups that would say, yes, we'll help you, because we know that we're all human beings, and we know it's not your fault. We know that it wasn't your choice, and even if it was, we're all humans now. We all have to stick together and be together, and the only way we get through this is together. So it would be such an interesting dynamic, and that's one of the things I was really intrigued about. So that is one of the things that brought me back to the show. I was man, if they're gonna explore this, and I want to see what they do with it, because I'd always been intrigued about it, and always been just interested to kind of see that explored, to how, because you'd have groups set up by by white people or other races, but the Native people would also have their groups, communities set up, and it'd be interesting to see who they'd allow in, who they wouldn't, and how they'd set up. And it was just so that was one of the things that really excites me about the zombie apocalypse worlds and universes and stuff. So the fact that they introduced Taka on the show was I was just so excited, and from watching him, the actor did an amazing job as Taka, and it's just been a great character. I definitely hate when he gets when I have to root against him, and because when he gets into he used poison against the ranch, and excuse me, he was really seemed really proud about that. And he's he'd get into his talking about us versus them sometimes, and that's the thing. I understand that his feelings and emotions are coming from a very deep rooted place, and are coming from experiences, and just from experiences and things that happen with the ranchers that go back generations, and awful like tragedies and atrocities were committed against his people, his family, against these ranchers, against immediate family of these ranchers. So it's like, this is not just normal random people that Taka's dealing with. These are people that he's been in odds with basically his whole life, and these are people that have done worse than poisoning. And he was poisoning the soldiers. So to him, that's just like basically war. And but I mean, like, that gets into like chemical warfare is a violation of war, and like anything that's not physical, like with fists or with swords and like arrows, I mean, gets it. I believe like guns and stuff, like bullets, are a violation, because it's like basically it just takes too much of the skill out of it, and that's where it becomes the violation. But that's so those. So I mean, I see why he feels that way, but I still, as a good person, I can't accept that part of him, and I'll always always confront that in people. But at the same time, I understand, and it doesn't turn me off, rooting for him, and cheering for him as a character. So I basically kind of just have to be like kind of just grit my teeth through those situations, and just kind of focus on the best parts of Taka, which he did present a lot on the screen. It's just when he'd start to get pushed, that worst part of him would come out, and it's as a good person, it's tough to see that, but I understood it, and it didn't turn me off him as a character for sure. And it's but like other than those like instances, like, he's my boy. Like, I love Taka, and I would really love to see him cross over to The Walking Dead at some point, because as soon as I kind of saw him for like first few episodes, I was just like, man, him interacting with Rick and Daryl would be so entertaining. And those characters would just connect together so well. Like, I really think the characters of Rick and Daryl would embrace Taka, and just, I don't think there would be any clashing between them. I think it would just be, he'd be a great addition to the group. And it would be so much fun to watch, Taka integrate himself with the group on The Walking Dead, and become, and just start kicking ass with Rick and Daryl, and especially Daryl. I think Daryl and Taka would just be like the tag team champions of the apocalypse, man. Like, I think, and Taka would help Daryl get back to his ranger like type roots, and like the tracking and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it would really help Daryl get back to who he was, because I think, even though they're writing him like so shitty and awful, you could explain that in the show and turn it around by like Daryl start kind of losing who he was, and when he's able to connect with the character like Taka again, he starts to remember who he was and bring that in. He can start bringing his tracking skills to the next generation, because it seems like Daryl's so focused on fighting and defense and just violence. It's just, he hasn't taken the time to some of the non-violent things that he's good at, like tracking, teaching people how to just figure things out, and there's lots to learn about the woods and surviving in nature. So it's you know, like a character like Taka could really help bring that out of Daryl again, and just so I'm hoping that down the road we'll get to see Taka cross over onto The Walking Dead, because he's my favorite character on Fear. He's an awesome character, and I really hope he's a long-term character, but I hope he's not like going to be like a Morgan and gone for a few seasons, because you know him and Crazy Dog, who I also love, he's my guy too. I'm glad that he survived the whole ranch thing. It's like I hope those guys are going to be main characters in this season, coming in this season 4 and going forward. I hope they're not just going to be like an ace up the sleeve for down the road. Even like they already did that at the end of season 3. Like they saved they provided that ace in the whole thing. So I think they're too good of characters not to be around, and you know our main group characters need them to be able to survive. So I hope they're going to be sticking around. I hope that they're not going to be killed off, and I hope that they're not going to be just background afterthoughts. Taka's my favorite character. Crazy Dog's right up there. And it's just, I really, really hope that there's lots more story to tell with those guys. And so I guess that kind of brings me to the end. I think I talked about every character and everything on Fear and that I wanted to talk about. Like I said before, I love the the universes and the worlds these zombie TV shows and movies and stuff create. It really sets a fire under me creatively, and it's I can't get enough of it, and so when it's done, but when it's done well, it's the best, and when it's not done well, it's not very good at all, not going to keep anybody watching. So I really hoping that we see a lot on just the best possible stories out of The Walking Dead and from Fear. And it's just I just can't get enough of it. It's as long as it's done well, I'm gonna keep. I'm definitely gonna stay along for the ride on The Walking Dead. I'll be along for the ride on Fear, and it's just I want to. Sound like a broken record. There's so much potential for these shows. There's so much potential for these characters. I just want to see it out there as the best version of it, because it's so much fun to watch when these shows are at their best. And so it's going to be another long wait till I guess probably October again for The Walking Dead, but there's lots of things to be excited about, lots of potential, and pretty much a clean slate going forward. So kind of everybody will be jumping into it brand new, and be just really interested to see where they go with the story. Fear is just getting started with this half of season 4. It was a great start in the premiere. Love the characters they introduced. They've created some interesting questions with the state we saw our group in, and have had the fact that our group is, got these new characters and Morgan under knife and gunpoint. So it's gonna be interesting to see where the story goes on Fear. And I just I love watching great TV. The Walking Dead has delivered so much great TV. I know it's going to keep doing it going forward. Fear hasn't delivered as much as The Walking Dead, but it's still young in its show, and the potential is there for it to be just as good as The Walking Dead. So I hope these shows keep rolling for a long time, and I really excited to seeing this for the rest of this season of Fear. Then after that, we got I guess we're waiting till October, but it'll be worth the wait when it comes back, I'm sure. Well, alrighty, yeah, so that brings me to the end. Nothing left to say. Thanks, everyone, for coming along for the ride, and we'll see you soon down the road. Much love and God bless. Peace.